hosts, Rev Ted Woodruff,
Era Parisian, Nina Ashford,
and me, Nick Humphreys.
Virtual Vision FM,
your platform to all things spiritual.
Be part of the show. Call in at area code 646-716-9336.
Hello, and welcome once again to Virtual Vision FM, your platform to all things spiritual. We have Ted Woodruff with me here today as co-host. Nina Ashby is busy. Her schedule is quite jammed right now. And our Nick Humphreys he's in Norway right now, so his connection isn't as good, and so he tends to see clients at a time like this. So, welcome, Ted. How are you doing? Well, Ted, you have to unmute your mic. There we go.
Unmuted mic. It just takes a moment. I'm using my what's called a mouse. Yeah, good evening. Yeah, just for the sake of everybody, if you're having issues getting on and listening and hearing, it might be to do something to do with Internet Explorer, and I'm using the Google facility, and I can see and hear everything that's going on. Yeah, but all very clear. And Era, like I was saying, I wasn't just being charming. Era has lost 10 years in 1 week. She's looking well, very well, extraordinarily. It's probably the outfit she's wearing, the zebra come cowhide colour, but I don't know. There's just something well different about you, lady. Good to see, and yeah, I'm glad to be back. Last week was a bit of an issue getting in, and I felt guilty for not making it. But I tried my best for about 10 minutes and sat down, thought I'll have a break, and an hour and a half later I woke up, so I've been overdoing it, and this week I'm fairly raring to go, although I was having a little nap up until about 2 minutes before the show started. But I'm here, and yeah, good to be back, and good to see Era looking well, and good to see a room filling up for our show. And of course viewers now, not just listeners, which is I don't think I'm not used to that yet. It's kind of cool, the fact that we're live and visible. Hopefully that's a pleasure for everybody, as were our voices, now to see our faces.
Yeah, it's a bit of a change, isn't it? It has been an evolution unto itself, and it is still evolving. So we have lost the capacity to have call-ins since we've left Blog Talk, and I don't want anyone to fret and think that that's not going to be a possibility ever again. We are looking into some programs that do allow it, so it won't be long now before you're able to call in and talk to our guests personally and get your reading. And what's really cool about this platform is that there is going to be the potential here for you to receive your reading, but in as much as you can see us as we're reading you, we'll be able to see you too if you like. So it's really new technology, and it's great. So stay tuned, follow us on our Facebook page, and you will be able to find out when these announcements come down the pipe and be a part of it all. We are still collecting Virtual Visionary MP3s, so if you would like to be on the air, send us your MP3 stating your name and your location and that you're a virtual visionary. And we're going to see just how far-reaching Virtual Vision FM is around the globe. We have a fantastic guest with us today. And what's really ironic in this guest is that he just lives a stone's throw from me. And we just realized that just prior to air. So this is pretty cool. Before we get to Garnet Schulhauser, author of 2 amazing books, we are going to shift back to Ted. And Ted, you can tell us a little bit as to what you've been up to, how the Namaste Healing Center is coming along, and then perhaps you can give us that 1 minute me moment that we all missed terribly last week.
Hi, viewers, listeners. Yeah, the Namaste group, just as a little reminder as to what I'm doing here at Turns, 200 yards from the coast in Kent in the UK, is the vision of having an holistic centre of excellence for all things spiritual. My main area is healing, hands-on healing, what I call old school hands-on healing, without all the necessary sort of necessarily additions of certificates, and you certainly need insurance and certificates to operate, but to bring in new gifted types to work here without the necessarily, as I say, having to have the strictures of conventional teaching. So we say that doesn't mean I don't welcome those who have gone through what is rather necessary in the UK and in other countries. Old school hands-on healing, general spiritual activity from circle to trance work to card readings, if that's what people like to do, to every aspect that one can imagine of reflexology, of acupuncture, of hypnotherapy, mindfulness, and everything else. And to that end, it's going to take months, hopefully not years, to get the place sorted into this situation where people can come and go and have events and workshops and courses, and of course clients coming for old school hands-on. And the latest thing this week is, and I tend to rush through this aspect when we've got a client and when we've got a guest, and Garnet it sounds like a really, really interesting guest, so I'll just speed it up a little bit to say that this week the first steps toward the tipi have come about, and I've actually had the man on the ground at the bottom of the garden, literally in the meadow, and we've walked the area and had a long old chat about it. And the long and the short of it is he is going to supply a tipi. It can be sited exactly where I wanted it. It's going to be facing absolutely the right way. And two dear friends of mine, Jan and Greg, are incredibly helpful in getting this literally off the ground, on the ground, and up into the atmosphere sort of thing in the shape of a genuine Native American tipi. It's going to be done right. It is a sacred space, and it will be used for that. And right from day one, I want to get it done properly, or as possible properly, in the UK, albeit it was a place for folk to live on the Native American lands. Right. From there, other than that, we've had circle, we've had readers in, we've had clients in. It's been, furiously busy as always, and I'm working my way around the garden, painting and getting everything titivated. And it's like the fourth bridge. You start one and then you finish that, and then it leads on to something else. So it's never ending, but always exciting and great energies. And the interesting thing I realized today is I've had a couple of days without anybody around, and energy-wise, it's rather interesting because I can become quite weary. I think, well, have I tired myself, or what is it? And I actually think, although it's nice to have a break from folk around, it's equally nice when you realise that their energies lift and boost you dramatically. And bear in mind, there can be a dozen people in one fairly small room at one time. So I kind of miss that in one sense. Recharge my batteries in another, but I look forward to those energies back around me in the next couple of days. So you want us to get talking to Garnet, so I'll run through my 1 minute me moment, and then we'll be on to the guest. The 1 minute me moment came to mind actually over a year ago now, and it was an idea that I had that in this day and age we don't seem to get time or make time for ourselves, and that, whatever my 1 minute me moment does, you need to try and get time for yourself to meditate and have the me time. But until that time comes, a little idea I had was that if you just spend 1 minute out of each day thinking for yourself, about yourself and your guides and your spirits, then that seemed to be a plan for me. So the idea is to sit on a chair at some point in the day when the children aren't around, your partner's not around, or you get an opportunity just that you're going to be able to be peaceful for 1 minute, maybe even at work, in a lunch hour, whenever. Sit on a chair in a quiet space, close your eyes and concentrate on your breathing, and breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth, and in through your mouth and out through your nose, because that makes you concentrate on your breathing. And at the same time as you're doing that, imagine, with your feet on the ground, imagine that you've got a little vine connecting your ankles. little vine, and then from the middle of that vine, another one going down, 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 deep into Mother Earth and attaching itself around a tree trunk or a rock. And that's grounding you. It doesn't physically ground you per se. You're not sort of stuck there on one spot, but it does in the etheric keep you close to Mother Earth and stop you floating off in your mind and in the etheric. I only had someone this week querying about this because they felt they wouldn't be able to flee a situation if needs be, and you know, you had to explain it's not like a ball and chain and you've got to drag it around and you can't move your feet, but it does, and spiritually it is very powerful to keep you connected to Mother Earth, or the great turtle, as one of my dear friends calls it. So you're grounded, and at the same time as the breathing and the grounding, imagine an aura around you of light, of whatever color you choose, whichever color appeals most to you. In my case, I use gold or white, and you throw this eggshell of protection around yourself. And although it's in the mind's eye, and although you're saying it in your own mind, it so works if you imagine it and you ask your spirits to put it there as well as yourself putting it there. Like the Ready Brek kid back in the day in the UK, a golden or white aura of protection around yourself, and stuff does not get through. And for this minute, and you'll increase it to 2 minutes, to 3 minutes, to 5 minutes over time, for that minute to start with, connect in your mind to your loved ones, whether they're on this earth plane, whether they've left this earth plane and now transited to the heavens, to your loved ones or to your spirits, to your guides, whether they be angels, archangels, Native American, any nationality of spirit that you choose or who you resonate with, and spend a minute connecting with them while you're grounded and you're protected and you're breathing right in through the nose, out through the mouth, just to get that nice flow of energy, air going around your system. And try that. Do it for a minute. Try and increase it to 2 minutes or more if you can do. But if you just do that 1 minute me moment each day, it's cool. It works. And I have a lot of people who swear by it and do it. So that's the 1 minute me moment from the Rev Ted.
Thanks, Ted. And again, my advice to everyone is don't dismiss it without trying it first. Try it, then deny it, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, we missed that last week, so thank you very much for catching us back up. And it's always a lovely thing to do right at the top of the show. So, Ted, I do see that we do have a lot of people in the chat room, so I'm just going to do a quick shout out to Sandra. Hi, Sandra. And David B., staff. And there's other people that I can't see at the moment. So hello to everyone, and thank you so much for being here. So today we have with us author Garnet Schulhauser, who has authored 2 books. One is called Dancing on a Stamp, and the other is called Dancing Forever with Spirit. He has had some extraordinary experiences that he's going to share with us, because that's what his 2 books are all. So welcome, Garnet. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks, Era. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's wonderful to have you on the show with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem, our pleasure. So, author of 2 books, and I noticed that you have a background, or are you still practicing law at this time?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Era. You cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that you do have a background as a lawyer, and are you still practicing law now?
No, I retired in 2008, Era. And that was about a year after I first met my spirit guide, Albert. And so since then, I've been a retired lawyer and now an author.
Wow. You know what I find incredibly interesting, and I want to hear the whole story as our viewers do, but I find it extraordinary that lawyers have a very regimented, structured mindset that functions a lot in the gray, not in the gray area, but in the black and white area. And here you are having this experience of meeting a spirit guide out of the blue. And how does that reconcile to that kind of mindset?
Well, it doesn't at all, and it's totally different from my mindset as a lawyer when I was practicing. So it was really quite a change for me. It was a. Do you want me to describe how I first met my spirit guide?
I would love it.
Okay. Well, It was back when I was still practicing law in 2007, and I was just taking a stroll down the street one sunny afternoon in Calgary where I was practicing, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this homeless man jumps out and stands in front of me and stops me in my tracks. And typically when I would meet these people on the street, I would usually do a quick sidestep and go around. But this man was different because he had these amazing, sparkling, dazzling blue eyes that were penetrating deep within me. Like I felt like he was looking into the depths of my soul and that he knew everything about me, even though we'd never met. And at the same time, his eyes were sending me this amazing gush of warm, unconditional love that was infusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security. It was an amazing feeling. I'd never felt anything like that before. I knew this guy was special, so I stood there like a deer caught in the headlights. It was like I was in a time warp. I didn't know how long I was there. Didn't really care as long as this man was sending me this wave of love towards me. And then he broke the spell by saying, "Why are you here?" And he promptly turned around and disappeared into a store, a nearby store. So it took me a few seconds to collect my wits, and when I finally did, I realized that I should go and find this guy, find out why he stopped me, who he was. So I went into the store that he had disappeared into. There was only one entrance and one exit. He was nowhere to be seen. I hadn't seen him come out. So I walked back into the street and walked up and down hoping to find him, but he was long gone. So I walked back to my office, and that night I resolved to myself that I really had to go back and find this guy because he was really quite a very different guy. I knew he was special. So the next afternoon, very same time, I went back onto the street, strolled up and down for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I was about to lose hope when I finally spotted him sitting on a bench by himself. So I went over to him and I said, "Who are you and why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "I'm a soul just like you. I'm here to answer your questions and help you on your journey." And so then, still being a lawyer, my skeptical lawyer mind kicked in. And I said, "Well, how can you help me? Because you look like you've been sleeping on the street for weeks and you smell like a dead fish." And he said, he gave me a big smile and he said, "Well, you know, looks can be deceiving because you look like you're a successful lawyer with everything under control, but we both know that's just a facade." He said, "You can turn around and go back to your office and see if you can find your answers in all of those emails waiting for you on your computer, or you can sit down here and have a chat with me." And so my intuition then got the better of me, and I thought, well, what do I have to lose? I can sit down here and waste a half an hour with this guy. That's the only downside, and maybe he has something useful to tell me. So I sat down beside him and we began our dialogue. It was a dialogue that went on off and on for the next few months, and I found out early on that this man, his name was Albert, was actually one of my spirit guides who had appeared as the homeless man to get my attention. And after the first couple of visits, encounters that I had with him as the homeless man, he no longer appeared in physical form to me, and he just communicated with me as a voice in my head, and we spoke by telepathy. And he told me after that I was the only one who could actually see him as the homeless person, and I actually felt him. He was solid. He was there. But Albert said that no one else could see or feel him. It was just me, and that he had appeared as the homeless man as a way of getting my attention, of easing me into the conversation. Because if I had just started hearing a voice in my head talking to me, I probably would have thought I was going crazy, you know. And I was very much of a straight-laced lawyer, wasn't into any of that sort of stuff. So he had to find a way of easing me into the conversation. So our dialogue went on for several months, off and on. He answered all the big questions in life that I've been asking myself for many years, like, who am I? Why am I here? What is my life's purpose? And what happens to me when I die? And he answered all those questions in a very forthright and truthful manner. His answers felt like that was the real truth to me. And partway into the conversation, he said, "You know, I'm not just here to answer your questions, but I also want you to write a book about our conversation so that everyone else can have access to what I'm telling you." So that resulted in my first book, Dancing on a Stamp.
Wow. I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless. What what a struggle that must have been for you, actually, to come to terms with that and listen to it, absorb it, and then act on it.
Well, it was a struggle for me because I had, as I say, I was a straight-laced corporate lawyer. I wasn't, people would have thought me writing the book was totally out of character. Like I never spoke about religion or spirituality or anything else. And so it was quite a change for me because you're right, lawyers just sort of live in a very much of a black and white world. And so this was really quite different. And so I struggled with it a bit at first, but Albert was such a inspiring spirit. He just totally inspired me and gave me comfort, and I just really enjoyed talking to him, and so that got me over sort of my initial skepticism. And as time went on, I came to really admire him for his wisdom and his compassion and his love for all humans on this planet. He's trying to help us, and so it was he quickly won me over, but then, once I sort of got really comfortable with Albert, I sat down to write my manuscript, and when I had finished it, then I had another struggle, which was, should I just throw this in a drawer somewhere, never to be seen again, or should I try to find a publisher? Because I knew that a lot of my former colleagues, law colleagues and partners, would have, their eyes would have been opened up, and they would have been wondering, has this guy gone, off his out of his mind? Is he, is he becoming senile, or where is he getting this stuff from? And I knew I would lose a lot of friends who just wouldn't sign on to what I was describing in my book. So it was a bit of a struggle, but in the end, I decided that I had to go ahead and publish it, because if I didn't, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And so I did, and I did lose some people. Some people have shunned me, have not spoken to me. But many others, I found a lot of new acquaintances who really enjoyed reading my books, and so it was a bit of a, you lose some and you win some, but that's just the way life works. And so I'm very glad that I did it.
Well, kudos to you, and I have to say that I'm very glad that you did it too. That kind of wisdom is life transforming, as you know. And I'm always so humbled when it occurs, because the information, Albert's quite true, quite right, is that it's there for you, but it's there for everyone as well. So, Dancing on a Stamp, can you explain to me, please, where the title came from? Because it's really intriguing.
Well, he was, at one point, I had been complaining about some of the things that had happened in my life, and Albert said, well, your life on Earth, it's like you're in this big, beautiful ballroom. He used a dancing ballroom as a metaphor. He said, you're in this big, beautiful ballroom, and there's people all around you that are dancing and swirling all over the place and enjoying the whole ballroom. But he said that I spent too much of my time staying on one spot, like I had shackles on, and he said that I needed to quit dancing on a stamp and get out and enjoy the whole ballroom. That's where the title came from. So
wow,
I was standing in one spot instead of moving around and enjoying my journey on this planet. So
that's incredible.
And I thought the phrase was quite neat, so I decided that should be the book title.
Well, it is. It's like I say, it was very intriguing, and when I saw it, I was trying to get my head around it, and I know it had some sort of meaning, but that's very powerful. So I'm glad you used that. So in the first book, Dancing on a Stamp, it's all about the wisdom that was conveyed via Albert, correct?
Yes, we had a dialogue, sort of a question and answer session every time, and I would ask him questions, he would answer them, and that's what I put into the book. And the second set of encounters I had with him, which is in my second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit, was quite different. That's where the astral traveling came in.
Okay. When it comes to Dancing with a Stamp, what do you consider to be the most profound piece of wisdom that came through for you?
Well, he was a lot of his wisdom flew in the face of most of the things that the Christian Church had been teaching for centuries. I was raised as a Roman Catholic, and I know all the things they taught me. And I had, by the time I reached my 30s and 40s, I had rejected a lot of what they stated to be the truth. And so a lot of what Albert told me, which was really sort of eye-opening and in a lot of ways comforting, flew in the face of a lot of their teachings. So first of all, he said that we all come here to this planet to learn and experience things, and that God or the source does not send us here for some reason that only he knows about. We choose to come here, and we choose sort of the major aspects of our life when we devise a life plan before we're born. And the life plan will include all the major things like, where we're born, the identity of our parents, our siblings, our relatives, co-workers, and so on. And we design that very deliberately so that we can experience some things that we need for our evolution as a soul. And so the first surprising thing is that, if you ask yourself, why am I here? And the answer is because you chose to come here, even though you don't remember it. So that was sort of an amazing, we weren't put here by some random act of the universe or by God because he had some designs for us. God has nothing to do with it. The second thing is that he said the source, God or the source, doesn't make rules for us to follow. And that's a major one because raised as a Christian, of course, the Christians believe that there's all kinds of rules that God has made that we have to follow. And if we don't follow those rules, of course, and make amends, when we die, we can go to an awful place called hell. Mm-hmm. Albert said, no, that's just an invention of the religious holy man, that the source does not make rules for us to follow. And what follows from that, of course, is that when we die, the source doesn't judge us. There's no judgment. There's no punishment. There's no hell. So no matter what you did on this planet, when you die, you go back, your soul goes back to the spirit side, where you can, have a review of the life you just lived. You can kind of judge yourself, how you managed in your life. So you're the only one who judges what you did. And then you regroup and plan your next incarnation and try to make amends for whatever mistakes you did in the current life. So very, very quite different from what the Catholic Church taught me as a youngster. And I found it actually very comforting. Now, one of the aspects of that a lot of people find unjust is that even the bad guys go to heaven because there is no other place to go. So, the murderers and the terrorists and so on, they go to the spirit side when their bodies die, just like Mother Teresa does. And that a lot of people find that very troubling. I don't actually, because I think I recognize sort of the cycle of life on Earth. And what he said was basically, when I asked him, well, why that doesn't seem fair? Why does that happen? He said, on the spirit side, you understand sort of the reality of life on Earth, and he said it's very much like being actors in a play. So if you're in a play and a script calls for you to stab another actor to death, and you do so, when the curtain goes down and you leave the theater, you don't get arrested by the police for murder because it didn't really happen. It was all play acting. And he said, life on Earth as humans, it's very viewed in a very similar fashion from souls on the spirit side. It is that we're all trying to run our own scripts. We don't always remember what's in our script. In fact, most of the time we don't. We have free will to make actions and take decisions. And so quite often we stray off course and we can do some very bad and hurtful things. And they recognize on the spirit side that that's just part of a life on Earth. And so if you make mistakes, and even if you screw up horribly and kill somebody or blow people up or whatever, that's no reason for punishment or shunning, and there's never any lingering hatred once you cross over. So if you kill somebody on this in this life, when you get to the other side, your victim doesn't have any hatred or animosity towards you. It's kind of like, okay, we were both in a play together, and this is how it went, and you know what? There's always another play. That's really quite amazing.
It is, and it's so refreshing to hear you say that, because that is something I have always believed, that the only judgment comes from human beings who figure people who do terrible things should be punished. And really, it is a play. And yes, it can be hurtful, and yes, it can be despairing, but it is an illusion. And we're here to learn through that. And to me, it's a playground. So It is refreshing, but my goodness, what a struggle it must have been with your Catholic background to come to terms with that one. Because, yeah, that's a hard one for people who have ingrained doctrine.
Yes,
Specifically.
and the Catholic Church was very good at sort of pounding all their dogma into the heads of the young children and their people and their followers, and so it was a struggle to sort of get rid of that. I've often heard other Catholics who have gone down a similar path to me refer to themselves as recovering Catholics, because it takes a bit of an effort to sort of get rid of all that stuff, because it was drummed into our head that we'll be judged by God after we die, and if we haven't followed all the rules, we'll be sent to an awful place called hell, and that was always sort of hanging over our heads. So it's very refreshing to have Albert say, "No, that's a bunch of nonsense." That's not an excuse to be a bad person on earth, because your soul doesn't want you to be a bad person. But you should know that if you do mess up, well, you'll get another chance and another chance. You can come back to this planet as many times as you like. You can have 20 incarnations or 2,000. It's up to you. Every soul chooses its own pace for evolution, and there's no deadlines or timetables, because we're all eternal souls.
Yes.
So you can go as fast or as slow as you want.
You know what's remarkable is that even with the deep teachings that you were born into, and I guess I should really call it conditioning, it took one incident with Albert to completely change your life. So I think that's really important for viewers to understand, that you might be a victim of your conditioning, but change and those miracles of transformation are but a breath away. They can happen to anyone at any time with such a great impact, and you're a living example of that. So I think that's really important to mention here.
Yeah, absolutely. I entirely agree with you.
Yeah. So now I want to move along a little bit and touch on your book, Dancing Forever with Spirit. Now, this is really an interesting one, because it does involve the astral travel, but I just want to check in with Ted to see if there's questions already here in the chat room. Ted?
There's not so much questions, just sort of acknowledgement and agreement, I suspect. And from my perspective, Garnet, my goodness me, I'm sort of sitting here partly open-mouthed, but you can't see it because, a little bit like I have with Era regularly, of her words being my words, your words are very much mine, and everything you said has certainly made sense to me and my experiences and whatever. And what a glorious thing it is that all of a sudden, at some point in your life, and it matters not of what age, you encounter another soul from wherever, from the heavens, who absolutely transforms your life. And the interesting aspect as well is the Roman Catholicism that you were born into, and as I was in the UK, albeit Church of England, there is that, not so much for me a struggle, but an acceptance that is what you were and you always remain, because that was by accident of birth the religion into which you were born, and you presumably chose to do that before you came here. And maybe we do that by choice, as you say, intentionally, so that we then recognize how our early life has been and the validity of some of that and how human it is, and then that sort of realization of the trueness of our souls and the trueness of ultimate spirituality. Everything you're saying, I absolutely 100% plus resonate with, and you put it across very well and in a very down-to-earth and real way. And look, there's just one question I wanted to ask before Era sort of takes the conversation on. Have you any idea why Albert chose you?
I did ask him that question, Ted. He said that, of course, he and I had planned this before I was born. I don't remember any of it. He said it was because I had lived a few lives as a writer, as an author, previously on Earth, and they thought that perhaps some of that ability might leak through in this life, and so they thought it's worth a shot. Let's see if this guy can go from a lawyer to being an author. And so that's why he chose me, and it was like a he has many, many messengers. I'm just one of them. And so if I didn't work out, he has other people that he could pass his message through to. So anyway, it turned out that I think I did okay. I hope so. But it's always a chance because of the free will on Earth. You're never quite sure from the spirit side where this person is going to go. And even though you think they might head in one direction, they may go in a totally different one. So there's always a chance to it. But I'm glad he took the chance, and I'm certainly glad that he confronted me that day.
Yeah, that actually, that brings up so many thoughts and ideas in my head now, that the journey as an individual on the Earth plane is that you could go in any which way, direction, or whatever. Just thinking about myself for a moment, I went into the prison service for 12 years. I went in auctioneering and art dealing, whatever. And in hindsight, spirit was always there. And in my case, the angels and archangels I particularly sort of resonate with, and others. But it took me probably until 2003 until I particularly went for it. And it took an individual in a hospital bed next to me who absolutely projected me, and I was sort of like early 40s. So yeah, they don't know when you're going to do it, but they're there and they're ready to give it a shot when they choose. That is so interesting. Interesting.
It is.
Back to you, Vera.
Dave in the chat room does have a question for you, Garnet, and it's along the same lines as what Ted just asked you, but a little bit of a twist to it. What was the significance of Albert choosing to appear to you in that point of your life?
Well, it was all planned beforehand, but I think that it was, I've asked him that. He just said we felt that was, he felt that was the opportune time to approach me when I would be, I was already getting very tired of practicing law, and I was really thinking a lot about retiring, and I think that he appeared. At that point, I retired basically a year after I met him. He appeared then to sort of spur me on to sort of realize that there's other things in life besides practicing law, and that there's a new direction that I should be headed in. And so he came sort of at that time. If he had come 20 years beforehand, it may not have worked. But I was ripe for a new direction, a change in my life, and he knew that, of course, as my spirit guide. He's been watching me all the way along in my life. And so he thought that was a good time to just sort of give me a little nudge, off the track I was on, onto a new course as an author, and I think it worked. I think it was perfect timing.
Yes. Well, they know what they're doing better than we do sometimes.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah.
For sure. So tell us a little bit about your second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit.
Well, after my first set of dialogues with Albert, which resulted in my first book, he disappeared for a few months and sort of wasn't around, and I couldn't get a hold of him. I was beginning to be a bit concerned because he had told me I was going to write, a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth book, and I wanted to get going on the second book, but I needed his input. I mean, the wisdom in my books comes from Albert. So anyway, I was a little concerned about why he hadn't appeared for a while. And then one night, I was sleeping in my bed. Something caused me to sit up, and I looked towards the bedroom of my the doorway of my bedroom, and there was this ghost-like ethereal figure standing there. And as it moved closer towards me, I could see it was my old friend Albert as the homeless man, but in his astral body form. And I said, "Wow, Albert, nice to see you. What are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, I've come to take you on a series of out-of-body adventures. I'm gonna show you things, introduce you to spirits and other entities, so that you can write about them in your second book." Because he said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. He agreed with that. He wanted to show me things rather than just tell me about them. So he reached out and he grabbed my arm. He basically pulled my astral body out of my physical body. I turned around and looked, and my physical body was still sound asleep in bed. And I said, are we going to be gone long, Albert? Do I have to tell my wife where I am? Who's going to take out my garbage in the morning? He said, not to worry. He said, you'll be back in your body before the morning, and no one will even know you've ever gone anywhere. So, okay, fine. So then he led me, we rose up through the ceiling, up through the clouds, and hovered at a point above our beautiful planet. and he let me turn around and look at Earth, and it's an amazing scene from that perspective. And I really understand now that what the astronauts get to see all the time is it's just like a jeweled pendant hanging in a black velvet background. Our planet, very beautiful. But he didn't let me dwell too long, and he soon took me through. There was like a doorway to the spirit side. It was sort of a shimmering doorway, just sort of floating there in space, and he took me through that. It was all black until I got through the doorway, and then I found myself standing in this beautiful meadow, and it was like lush green grass and beautiful, majestic, tall trees, and wildflowers in like 1,000 different colors that you can't describe. We don't have them on Earth. Amazing, and perfume wafting up from these flowers. So we slowly strolled through this meadow up a low hill, and at the top of the hill, I looked down and I could see this group of people, souls, standing there. As we approached and I got closer to them, then I recognized them. They were my mother and father, my brother, aunts and uncles, grandparents who'd all passed away. They were there to greet me. And coming from behind this group was my little dog, Oscar, a miniature Schnauzer, who had passed away 10 years ago. And he came running over to me, and I knelt down, and his tail was just wagging its whole body, and he licked my face, and it was just a wonderful reunion that he was still, alive and well and doing very well on the spirit side. So I was happy to see this group, but I had a little bit of apprehension because my mother had been a very staunch Roman Catholic lady. She was a fierce Irish lady who made sure that everyone in her family followed the rules of the church very strictly. And I was concerned because in my book, Dancing on a Stamp, I wasn't kind to the Catholic Church. I dissed a lot of their dogma, and I was afraid of what she might think about that. But she allayed my fears. She said, not to worry. If I was still on Earth, I wouldn't be happy with you about what you wrote in your book. But now that I'm here, I can see the whole picture, and you got it right. You did a good job. Thank you for doing that. So that was a bit of a relief. So then we just had a group hug, and then Albert said, "Come on, it's time. We have business to do. Let's go on." And from there, he took me into a beautiful white city there called Aglaia. All the buildings were gleaming white. Just an amazing city. And we took a stroll down the street, and there was another amazing sight because the street was full of spirit souls. In all kinds of different garments and attire from many different eras on Earth. And it was very colorful. It was like I was in the middle of a costume ball. And I said to Albert, so who are these people? What is going on here? He said, souls in the spirit side can choose to appear to others in any form that they want, and they can change it frequently. And so souls will often choose to appear in the garments of a life that they lived previously that they particularly enjoyed. And so there's men and women and from all different countries, all different eras. So it was really quite a colorful parade. All these people were smiling and laughing, very happy, very robust. It looked like just an amazing scene, and I could have just sort of watched this parade go by for hours. But Albert led me down the street, and we stopped in front of this beautiful, majestic white building that he called the Hall of Wisdom. And he took me inside, and there he said, "I'm going to I've arranged a meeting with you and the Council of Wise Ones, and they have a message for me." So I'll stop there in case you want to jump in with something.
Well, isn't that odd, Ted?
Yes.
Yeah, Ted knew exactly why I had that knee-jerk reaction. It's because I channel a collective called the Council of 12, which take me to their little place, much as you described. But yeah, it sounds like it's one and the same, actually.
Yeah, they called themselves Council of Wise Ones, but I expect they can go by whatever name they choose. It may be very similar. They were very they were wearing gold robes with white sashes, and they all had snow white hair. So they looked very old and wise, but their skin was very unblemished and unwrinkled, and they looked very regal, like just absolutely a commanding presence. And the chair of this group, her name was Sophia. And she said that they had asked Albert to bring me there to appear in front of them because they had a message for me to take back to my fellow humans. And so I said, well, okay, well, what's the message? And she said, well, basically, they're quite concerned about our human civilization right now on Earth, because she said that we're at a very advanced stage in terms of technology, but our emotional intelligence has not kept up. And so, and because of that, we're not in control of our negative emotions. There's too much fear and anger and hate and greed and lust and all those things. That results in a lot of conflicts, wars, genocide, terrorist acts, murders, and so on. And because we have the technology, the weapons of mass destruction that we have, we could literally wipe out all life on this planet if we let those loose. And they're very concerned that we don't do that and destroy ourselves before we get over get to the next stage. And they said, they've watched other human civilizations in Earth's past rise up to high levels like where we are, and then destroy themselves. Like notables like Lemuria and Atlantis and a few others we don't even know about. And in every case, they had developed a very high level of technology, but they didn't control their negative emotions, and they crashed and burned. And they're very concerned. They don't want to see humans do this again. And so their message was that humans really need to discard their negative emotions and embrace love and compassion. And in doing so, they can raise their vibrations and move up the spiritual ladder to a better place. And there is a better place. There's Earth in a higher dimension where negative emotions don't exist, and that's where we have to strive to get to. And they said, because of the crucial point that we're at, they've really been doing a full court press in terms of sending messages through channels on Earth, like you two and a lot of other radio hosts, people who write books, people who do blogs, and the message is basically all the same. Look at humans, we gotta embrace love and compassion, get rid of all of our negatives in our life before it's too late. And so that was the message they wanted me to take back, and which is in my book, is that we have to, first of all, we have to be aware ourselves that what we need to do, and then we got to try to lead by example and spread the message to other humans so that eventually we can all get to where we should be going before we destroy our planet.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting because I am getting information of that nature on a consistent basis. And oddly enough, I just find all of this so ironic, Garnet. I mean, you're speaking about this, you're mentioning things that one of my guides looks exactly like one of the Council of Wisdom.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that I don't mess around with him. Like, I can get a little mouthy with my own little guide, right? He's very powerful. I'm not minimizing him. But then I have him, the other one. The only way I can describe him is, remember that movie? It's very old. It's called The Ten Commandments. And
I do recall it, yes.
Charlton Heston, and who played Moses and goes up to the mountain and chisels out the Ten Commandments. And he comes back and his hair is all white and all that. That's what he looks like. That's what this guide looks like to me, but in the golden robe and the white sash. And so that's really interesting. And I had one guide, well, I still do. She's around, but her name is Sophia. And I thought, oh, what a beautiful name. And she says, do you know what it means? And I said, no. And she said, Sophia is Greek for wisdom. I laughed. So isn't it interesting that she is with the Council of Wise Ones, and her name means wisdom? It's,
yes, yeah. Well, you're very fortunate to have her as a guide.
Well, she's in and out. Like, I have 13 guides and a council of 12. Doesn't make me special. It just means I need a lot of help. And so she's in and out. She isn't one of the gatekeepers, as I call them, but I always kind of know when she's around. So this is really incredible validation, and it's validation for me, but I'm sure it must be a little bit of validation for you as well.
Absolutely, yes. I'm happy to hear that, and I've had other radio show hosts tell similar stories about their experience with guides and spirits, and it validates what Albert has told me, and what Albert has said to me validates what they've experienced. So it's the same message that's coming from the spirit realm. It just goes through different channels, slightly different nuances here and there, but it's basically the same message, and it's coming to more and more people. You know, Albert said, you know, we have a long ways to go, but we've made a lot of progress. He said that in the 1970s, if I had written, well, first of all, I wouldn't have written my book in the 70s, but if I had, nobody would have read it. And you see, you know, 40 years later, there's more and more people who have opened their minds to this sort of wisdom, and it's very encouraging, because I think that the more of us who embrace this sort of a concept, the better chance we have as a human race of getting over the hurdle that we're facing right now, and increasing our vibrations, making the shift, as people are want to say these days about making the shift from 3D to 5D and whatever. I actually did get a chance in one of my astral travels to visit Earth in a higher dimension, and it was quite an amazing trip. And it was, the civilization there was very peaceful. They lived in harmony with their planet, with the other creatures. There was no crime. There was no need for money or jobs. All the negative emotions had totally disappeared, and they could you know, spend a very happy life, you know, learning things, increasing their wisdom, you know, studying things in the universe, and they would live for 200 or 300 years, because they had learned to slow down the aging process, and they had gotten rid of most diseases, and so it was a very happy existence. And that is where humans should aspire to go to. But we have to raise our vibrations, because we can't go there until our vibration rate matches that of Earth in a higher dimension, or what people call the new Earth. So that was really the carrot he was holding out, is that, look at it, if you can carry this out, that's where you can end up. So it was really quite a great goal to see.
Yes, it is, and it really explains the ascension process and how everything is energy, and the energy has to vibrate at a specific frequency in order to be of benefit and match the alignment of Source itself. So, yeah, I think it's amazing, and it's really vital information. I know that it comes through so many different people, but it's something that needs to be said again and again and again, specifically because channeled information is repetitive information, simply because it knows, the spirit knows that paradigms are made and seeded by repetition. So it's their way of helping us evolve into a higher frequency. I really think that. Now, Ted, you looked like you had something to say there.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I'm sort of reflecting what's going on in the chat room, as well as my own thoughts and your reactions and all that Garnet is sort of validating here. And yeah, you know, the Sophia aspect, I'm quite sure there's an angel that goes by the name of Sophia that comes out in the cards every so often, and then I see that John David's getting energy flushes going on that I was getting when Garnet's talking about these things, and you know, Garnet, you've got to be psychic, because you were like saying things before I even was about to say that back in the day, 40 years ago or so, this was sort of not as out there as it is now, and so the time is now. And I'm thinking, look, I'm only a young sort of 50-year-old guy, but I'm sure 20, 30 years ago, there wasn't this openness and awareness going on. It was very much in this country, the Church of England and the Roman Catholics and the Methodists and all the various sort of religious aspects of the one Christianity going on. And over the last maybe only 5, maybe 10 years, this opening up of spirituality and spiritual awareness right across the world. It may be connected with the internet and the fact that humans are sort of, you know, 20 years ago, Aaron and I would never have met. You know, the internet's got a lot of positives going for it. Yeah, there is this sort of new dawn that's happening, and so many people are channeling and being given the information that, as you say, is coming from one source. And where Era talks to the Council of 12, and you talk about the wise ones in the Council, I guess if I were to use the analogy there, the wise ones for me are the archangelic realm, just another facet to the whole thing, that it is all one connectivity between us. And yeah, I'm conscious of the time and how fascinating this conversation is, and Garnet may need to love us and leave us in a few minutes. Era.
There are a couple of questions that have arisen in the chat room, Garnet, if you don't mind addressing them. One
Please.
was John David Parker was asking, and you touched upon this with the new Earth, but are there other planets that you have been taken to that touch upon information regarding other life, like other entities, other lives?
Yes, I was taken in my first set of trips. I was taken on to 2 different planets. One was a planet called Xeron, where there was a race of very intelligent creatures that sort of looked like spiders. They were very intelligent, and I had a bit of a visit with them. Their job was to monitor all the planets in our galaxy to determine when a particular planet might be ready to accept life. And then they would let the Galactic Council know, and the Council then would arrange for extraterrestrials with faster than light spacecraft to pick up life from a planet that already had it and seed life on the new planets. And he said that that's how Earth got a lot of its life, was by seeding from the ETs. A long time ago. And then he took me to a water planet called Proteus, which is totally covered with water. There are no land masses at all. There I met with a humpback whale and a dolphin, and the water, the life underneath the water looked exactly like Earth, like when I recall from snorkeling in the Caribbean. So the fish and the coral and the plants and everything else looked very similar. I had a conversation with these 2 creatures, and they said that most of the sea life on our planet actually originated from their planet and was seeded there a long time ago. That's why it looks so familiar. And their message to me was that they were in contact with their cousins on Earth. They communicated by telepathy, and they heard the cries of anguish from their cousins on Earth about the abuse that they'd been suffered at the hands of humans. Over the centuries, the harpooning, the killing, the trapping, and so on. We've gotten better at that. We've curtailed a lot of that, but they just don't understand. The whales and dolphins on Earth don't understand why humans can't live in harmony with them. Why we have to abuse them and cause them harm, because they want to live in harmony with us. And so their message from these 2 on this planet was, go back and tell your fellow humans to quit abusing their cousins on Earth. The whales, the dolphins, in fact, all the creatures on Earth. And we have humans have a tendency to regard all these animals as just dumb creatures, but they have a greater intelligence than we know, and they're very peaceful creatures, and they don't have technology, but they don't need any. And so that was that was the second planet I went to. In my second set of astral adventures, which I wrote about in my 3rd book, which hasn't been released yet, he did take me to a few other planets, including a couple that had other human civilizations that were actually quite different from our current one. And I would rather not get into the details because that's coming out in my 3rd book. But yeah, I've been to other planets, and Albert said that there are millions and millions and millions of planets with life in our galaxy, and of course there are billions of galaxies in the universe. So there's lots of life, and I've only just begun to explore, and I hope to see more with Albert someday.
Yes, and then you'll have to write another book and come back and tell us about it.
Well, the 3rd one, as I said, is written, and it'll be released sometime later this year or early next year, and it's called Dance of Heavenly Bliss. And I will be writing a 4th and a 5th, I think, I'm at Albert's beck and call, so whatever he wants, I do.
I can understand that. I totally understand that. So the next question is from Dave in the chat room, and he is saying, could it be that humanity is becoming more polarized?
I don't think it's becoming more polarized. I think that we have been polarized for quite a while. If he means in the sense of the enlightened people versus the unenlightened, yeah, there's more and more people that have become spiritually enlightened. As Ted mentioned, it's been a sort of a gradual awareness among a lot of people. I wouldn't say that they're really polar opposites. I mean, the enlightened people are really trying to help all the other people gain this awareness and become more spiritually aware and reject their negative emotions. So I think we're all on the same team. I don't regard myself as being different from the person down the street who isn't spiritually aware. I think it's my job to try to help them become aware and pull them along as best I can. So that I think that that's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah. Well, that makes total sense. And John David Parker has posted, "Thank you, Garnet. It explains a lot." So he appreciated your explanation and answer to his question. I have to be honest, I could talk with you all day about your experiences and the wisdom that flows through into your books. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I know that you only have an hour with us today, but I do hope that you come back and visit us again when your third book is released and let us know how that is going and what that one is all about.
I'd be delighted to come back on your show again.
Good. Now, Garnet, your books are available on your website, correct?
That's right. Yeah, there's buy links on my website to all the popular online stores. And on my website, there's also information about both books, and you can watch a book video for each of them. If my books are also available in some bricks and mortar stores, but if your favorite store doesn't have it, they can certainly order it.
Oh, perfect. That's good to know. Now, his website is www.garnetschulhauser.com. We have been cycling that link throughout the show in the chat room. So for the ones that will be viewing archives, you'll have to listen to the link, and it's www.garnetschulhauser.com. Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay, good. Yay. Thank you so much for your time today, Garnet. It's been an absolute pleasure. You are absolutely fascinating, and your books sound wonderful. Ted?
Oh, ditto plus. Yeah, Garnet, it's been brilliant, and would that you could have been on for longer, but please come back soon as and when your schedule allows, because my goodness, I resonate with everything that you say, and yeah, could talk with you forever.
The pleasure's been all mine, and I thank you for inviting me.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful weekend, Garnet, and we'll talk to you soon.
Catch you later. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. Can you believe
yeah,
that?
that was one of those, wasn't it? I'll hold my hands up. I had done no preparation or research on Garnet at all. You know, these guests, where you find them, I don't know. But that guy, well, you know, I can tell in the chat room that JDP, John David, is like, whoa, and energy going on. And I've got to say, actually, at the top of the show, when he started talking and explaining Albert coming to meet him, I was just absolutely flooding, like the chills going on. And not just the reaction you get sometimes where you get, whoa, chills. This was serious energy going on, and you're thinking, whoa, this, you know, and particularly interesting, you know, that the guy is, you know, roaming around as a lawyer and a steady sort of conventional guy, and then he has this absolutely amazing experience of a soul intentionally stepping in front of him, presenting himself to him, and where it's gone from there. I mean, hey, how would I like to have that happen to me? How would everybody love that to happen to them? But you know what's so interesting is different people's life journeys and experiences, and what's brought them to where they are today. They're all different. They're all fascinating. They're all very real. They're all very individual and personal to the individual. But when you get a guy like Garnet who can sit there very normally in many senses, but he's had these, you know, an ordinary guy having had these extraordinary experiences, that's what makes virtual vision so cool, because now that we can see our guests as well as hear them, you know, I hold my hands up, and I think I said to you this a few weeks ago, you know, I was like, you know, I liked our little radio show where we were voices going across the airwaves to people and whatever, and it took a little bit for me to go, okay, visual, it's got its merits and whatever, but there was a coziness about radio. I'm liking the fact that we can see our guests, that I can see yourself and Nina and Nick when they're around. That we've taken that step up, and you know, I think we're good. And I love the logo underneath you. I've still got to work on that, and
It's
get
easy.
me going on.
Yeah. No,
So,
it's
yeah.
fine. Yeah, it's I'm just reading a comment by John David Parker that isn't it amazing how our guides use different methods to contact us, and they do. And as much as there are billions of people on this planet, there are guides that have a billion ways to connect with us. So, you know, nothing is impossible, except, you know, if that's the limit you set for yourself, then that's what will be your experience. But really, it is available to anyone and everyone at any time. And I've always been a firm believer in this as well, that we all are the miracles that we pray for. We are living, working, talking miracles in motion in every moment of the day. And all these things can happen, and they can happen to you. And they can happen to me, and they can happen to Garnet, and they can happen to everyone. And we just have to create the freedom to allow that to come to us, because I know there's so many people that want that experience, and it is possible. Definitely is possible.
Oh, you set me onto a roll in my head now, Aaron, because I've got to say that exactly like you said, that I'm just this guy, like I say so often, who lives 200 yards from the coast down in the south coast of the United Kingdom. I'm just an ordinary man who led an ordinary life, but an extraordinary one for me, and an interesting and fascinating one for me, and long may it continue until the point at which, you know, you take that step into a fantastic space of transition into the heavens. And I've got to tell you, I had this you think there's someone in the room when I do that with a spiritual director, thank you, but that's actually energy flooding me, and I'll never ever get used to it. And hey, why should I? There was a guy who came last Sunday, actually. I had an intense client situation with 3 or 4 people for healing, and there was this man who explained about his place now in his life, that he was living an interesting life. He was opening up to spirituality, but he said a very interesting thing about having no fear of passing as and when his time comes. And he said it not in a morbid way, in any way, shape or form, but he was very comfortable with spirituality, life, and, you know, when his time comes. And he's only a youngish sort of 40-year-old guy. Yeah, sorry, I get on a soapbox and I get randomly chatting on in my head as well as out loud. But yeah, about this thing about spiritual, and it can come to you at any time. I'm just an ordinary guy, and, you know, this angel and archangel aspect of my life, it's only been evident and intense for kind of the last 3 or 4 years. Now I'm 53, so bear in mind, you know, that came in at late 40s for me. So for anyone who's wanting connection with something extra, something more than they've already got, it will come. It will come, and it will come possibly at the most unexpected time. And for me, it was an individual via eBay, of all things. And this woman saw a picture that I had on eBay of a Native American and a white eagle in the background, and it resonated with her, and she'd seen it in her dreams or something, and she contacted me. And then over the months and months and months went by, and eventually we connected and met in person. I went up to North London, she came down here, we spent months around each other, and during that process she was the messenger for or connecting me to the angelic realm. That came in a sense from nowhere, completely randomly, and it, in a sense, it changed my life, or it added another huge universal dimension to my life. So anybody and everybody can experience it, and don't sit there wanting it. Seek it, open yourself up to it, because there's more chance that they'll do it if you say, look, here I am, I'm the channel, I'm open and I'm ready to receive, and or wait for it to happen, but with the open mind that all things are so possible. And I know I'm chatting on, but, you know, always refer back to this fact that I worked in the prisons in a very down-to-earth job and met some very sort of interesting and indeed troubled souls in that job. Well, I know that I did that for a reason. I'd come, you know, I didn't know why I'd gone into that sort of job, because I was a nice, you know, nice mummy's boy, grammar school educated guy who then went into one of the toughest environments that you could really imagine. And it wasn't necessarily about the money in the end of it. I thought it was. It was probably just to have that experience and rub the, you know, the shoulders, you know, chips on the shoulders and whatever, to see another side of life and engage with all these sort of individuals and work amongst different sort of different types and backgrounds of men, and to grow up and to mature. I make no secret of it. All of our life journeys are different. For me, speak for me for a minute, yeah, my life's great, and long may it continue, and do the work and learn and meet and engage with these extraordinary people on a Sunday evening, as well as in real life, the people that are, you know, John David. I mean, there's a guy, you know, this guy is a phenomenon and a legend in his own way, and in what he does and what he brings. And, you know, it's a delight to have engaged with him. And a lot of this now is down to the connectivity that we get through the internet. So, good or bad, it's got a lot of positives to bring people together of similar attitudes and development of the spiritual to connect so many millions of people across the earth plane. Mm-hmm. Takes breath. Over to Era. Well, no, I get enthusiastic. I have a passion and an enthusiasm for this, and a couple of quiet days by myself, and then, you know, bang, and it comes again. The energy is like woof, because it is awesome. Life is awesome, and folks, don't be bored. You know, I've had a bit of this recently on this social media thing, Facebook, where you see people saying, "Oh, I'm so bored." You think, "Oh, you know, not get a life," but come on, you know, life is to be lived and to be cherished. Even if you're just sitting in the garden or going for a walk and looking at the Mother Earth and all that's out there, or have dreams and plans and thoughts of travel and engagement and learning and experiencing and reading and connectivity. Don't ever be bored. What a waste of this phenomenal opportunity to be born onto the earth plane and to be around at this particular time, because there's so much change going on, so much positivity going on, and so many great people to be around and to be with, and to do good stuff if you so choose.
Right.
Takes another breath. Over to Era. Beg your pardon. You only got to say one word and you'll set me off tonight.
No, it's quite all right. I mean, the passion is what it's all about, right? And the more passion we are hearing, the more inspired and motivated we become. And so it's just a reflection, and it really, it feels good. It just feels good. And I'm so grateful to people such as Garnet Schulhauser, who has been our guest for this last hour. Someone who has lived through a rigidity in life, a structure so strong that it only saw in black and white, and yet he had this extraordinary experience with a spirit guide who personified himself and showed himself as a human being just to get someone's attention, and we're all worth that. And good for Garnet. I can't give him enough kudos for taking the time to listen, choosing to risk his livelihood, because really, in essence, Spirit will always take care of us, always. And we have to sort of maybe try and get our heads around that a little bit more, that life is more than what we can tangibly feel, etc., with our five senses. So yeah, he was a great guest, and I'm actually looking forward to when his third book comes out, because I'm sure it's going to be filled with even more profound wisdom to share with everyone. I think that's great. Now, next week, I believe it is just going to be the Virtual Vision FM crew. So you know what that means, right? You know what that means? It means that we're doing readings next week. So hopefully, I think Nick will be back from Norway. I'm hoping he will. And I love to watch him read. I love to watch Nina read. I love, you even have angel cards that you read, and I always get a kick out of those as well. So stay tuned for next week. Hopefully we will have the ability to take call-ins. Wouldn't that be cool? Otherwise, what I think we might do, just in the off chance that we're not ready for that, is if you do want a reading, make sure that you post your question to the Virtual Vision fan page on Facebook, or you can email us at www.virtualvisionfm.com, which is from our website, or email us at virtualvisionfm@gmail.com, and we'll make sure that we address your questions and you can get your reading, call in or not, right? You think that's fair, Ted?
Sounds like a plan. I see Alfie, my dear friend Alfie, has just made it into the chat room, just made it to say, as we're kind of saying our good nights. But there's a case in point, and let me just say about, spirituality and the possibilities in life. He's a young guy. I don't know how old he is, but he's young 20s. Where he will be in 10 or 20 years' time, heaven knows, except it's going to be in a good place. Because he's a very young man. He's got an amazing gift which he recognizes. He reads up and he studies and he experiences and he does a few things that I'm like, whoa, Alfie, but the guy's got a lot of wisdom that I hear what he says, I read what he says. And Alfie, if you didn't know it, I pick up a lot and learn from you, my friend, as well as what you appear to be learning from me. So there are these wonderful people who can sometimes be a little controversial, can be a little bit different, and the old Chinese proverb of he who stands up like a nail must be prepared to be hammered down. Well, as long as they are prepared to be hammered down, because I've said this, I've waited for that to happen. Amazingly and interestingly, it doesn't happen. It may be in the way it's explained, it may be in the persona, it may be even my 1 minute me moment working, that I haven't had any old crap from anybody for many a long year. So the angels protect and guide and look after you, and so believe in yourself and your guides and your protectors, and you'll go places. So that's Alfie. Quick shout out for him. Thanks for tuning in, Sandra, JDP, obviously, David and Carrie and everybody that was there. And I might contribute next week. But I have to say this just to hear what Era says. But I'm not a medium. Your line is normally, oh, but you are.
And I was just going to say that I am going to make an MP3, so all I have to do is push a button and say that.
Oh, what? Oh, but you are.
Oh, but
I've always loved that. I'm not a medium. Oh, but you are. And when everybody says it in triplicate, that's even funnier, bless them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be working away, getting a little thing underneath saying Rev Ted Woodruff at Virtual Vision FM, because that is so sexy. That is. So I'm working on.
Yeah. It's very easy.
Is it? Yeah, okay. I'll do my damnedest.
For sure.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
So thank you very much for joining us today. It's been our delight to bring you Garnet Schulhauser, and I hope you do check out his books at www.garnetschulhauser.com. And if you're interested, by all means, track those books down, because I think they're really, really worthwhile. So until next week, I'm Era Parisian, and I will bid you good day. How about you, Ted?
I will send everybody good thoughts as a departing gesture, and thought is that John David has a very dear friend who is not good, and I send much love and healing, as I know many, many people are doing so, for a recovery and a speedy recovery. So love and light to everybody in the true sense of the words, and much love and healing to those who need it. And been a great show. Great to see Era. Whatever she's taken, 10 years have come off her tonight, and it just gets that girly reaction, which is so cool. And God bless you all, and see you next week. Namaste.
All right. Catch you next week. Thanks for being with us.
listening to Virtual Vision FM.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or contact us at our website www.virtualvisionfm.com.
We want to hear from you because you matter.
Virtual Vision FM.
Your platform to all things spiritual.